Hello, welcome to our presentation on careers in construction. We at Baxall Construction are known as a main contractor. We are paid by the client to oversee and manage the construction of a building. We subcontract all of the work out to smaller companies such as carpenters, bricklayers, roofers and steelworkers.
One of the questions that we received from you was, what roles are available to women? And the simple answer to that is absolutely all of them, with equal opportunities and equal pay. I think the industry has changed a lot from what it once was, not just in the professional roles, which is more what we're representing today, but also in the trades. Through our subcontractors, we've had female carpenters, decorators, electricians, the list goes on. The main problem we have in our industry at the moment is that we don't have enough young people coming in. People are retiring faster than we're getting young people into the industry, giving us a skill shortage. And that's why we need you. So in this presentation, we're going to give you an overview of just some of the roles in the industry, explaining our roles within a main contractor environment, as well as touching on some other professional roles in construction. Okay, so we've tried to relate careers in construction to school subjects and interests. I'm going to start with English language based roles, so not something you would necessarily automatically associate with construction.
Hello, my name is Zoe and I'm the bid writer at Baxall. The bid writer gathers all of the different types of information that go into making up the bid, also known as the tender document. This is basically our sales pitch, where we try to convince the client that Baxall are the best company to build whatever it is that needs building, whether it's a school, an office, a new house, whatever project it is the client wants built. A strong, well-written and well-presented tender document can win the company new business. Although a lot of the information that goes into the tender document is very technical, the secret to being a good bid writer is knowing how to write things clearly in plain English so anyone reading it can understand it. Key skills include being able to do research, knowing who to speak to find out the right information to answer the question that's being asked. Writing, you'll need to be able to write clear English, ideally with no spelling or grammatical mistakes. Being creative is important. You'll get to use design skills to lay out the tender documents and make them look eye-catching. Teamwork is key. The bid writer deals with lots and lots of different people right across the company to get all the correct information. And with different projects going on all the time, you need to be able to manage your time and not miss deadlines. How did I get into bid writing? Well, I always enjoyed writing, and after A-levels I went on to study journalism at university. From there I've written for lots of different magazines, newspapers, websites, but I've always been fascinated by construction. No surprise then that my favourite toy when I was a kid was Lego. So I eventually decided to combine my passions of writing and construction, and so began my new career as a bid writer at Baxall. My average day is busy. I'm mostly based in the office, filled with lots of writing and research, and I'd say the best bit is when we find out we've won a new project and we get to celebrate as a team.
I went to an all-girls grammar school. Never once was a career in construction mentioned, and so I never thought of it as an option. I loved English at school, but I wasn't so keen on the idea of reading a huge amount of books at university. There was a pressure at school to focus on the university route, but I knew it just wasn't for me. I preferred the idea of getting out into the world of work and gaining experience through the job itself. I left sixth form and immediately got a job in a hotel bar. It was great fun, a good place to gain confidence and customer service knowledge. At the age of 19, I decided I wanted to pursue a career, although still a little uncertain as to what I wanted to do. After struggling with maths A-level, my dreams of being a pilot went out of the window. My uncle passed me along a contact in construction, and I ended up becoming a PA for a civil engineering company. I enjoyed this, and after a year, I found an opening at Baxall for a team PA. As a team PA, my role involved document management, minute taking, and keeping records of plant on site, among many other things. I really liked that I was the centre of the team, the one that they would go to if they needed help. I'd work from the office, but also visit our sites too. I really enjoyed working alongside our site managers and learning more about construction. After a year, I left for maternity leave and returned, but instead within the managing director's office. Over time, my role has developed to solely marketing. So I'm responsible for our company newsletters, weekly blogs, social media management, clothing, company branding, and fundraising. Social media management is now a big part of any company marketing. At Baxall, I manage the Twitter, Instagram, and LinkedIn accounts. Keeping a great reputation of our company brand and to have our fantastic projects shown to all is key to attracting new business leads. So it's really important to have our work and company values shown across social media. I feel honoured to manage this on behalf of Baxall. As we're a smaller company, my marketing role is more diverse. It means there are many odd jobs to do too, such as taking the photographs for marketing material. My role also includes organising corporate and staff functions, such as golf days, shooting days, and staff parties. I can now finally say I have found my calling. I absolutely love my job and intend to continue studying all aspects of marketing to further my knowledge and develop my career.
So when I was at school, I was told there wasn't any money in studying art and design, but that's definitely not the case. There are lots of roles in construction that use these skills, and here's a brief overview of just some of them. Perhaps the most obvious art and design related career in construction is architecture. Architecture is the design of buildings and structures, everything from housing to skyscrapers. It's a very complex discipline where you're combining the aesthetics of how space looks along with the science of how people will interact with that space. Up until a few years ago, the only option for this career was a 7-year-long degree, but if that puts you off, they are now rolling out architectural apprenticeships. In terms of day-to-day working, most architects that I work with these days are designing using modelling software, which allows them to design in 3D and export two-dimensional drawings. It's mostly desk-based with a few occasional visits to site. One discipline that works very closely with the architects are interior designers or interior architects. Interior designers focus specifically on rooms inside the building, creating interesting spaces using colour, lighting, textures and furniture. Generally, an interior architect goes into a lot more detail than an architect. They need a good eye for detail along with creative flair and a basis in art. Like architecture, it would normally be studied at university level, but likewise there are alternative routes. 3D visualization.
When I was in school, my favourite subject was graphic design. In this class, we had a tool called Google SketchUp. This software allows you to model anything in 3D. We started by modelling our house, and then we started modelling objects that we could print on a 3D printer. This is where I first became interested in design, manufacturing and construction. So after my A-levels, I started a job hunt in the construction industry. My first job was to be a 3D modeller, where I would take architects' and engineers' drawings and turn them into full coloured 3D models. This showed them what that building might look like after construction. One of these models is called a building information model. So after this, I took on a job as a BIM manager. As a BIM manager, I was then able to use software that would take an architect and engineer's base colour model and turn it into a 3D visualization. This process is called rendering, where you apply full material appearances to those colours. You can also add in other objects, which can include your surrounding buildings, trees, and any furniture. So you can see here we have added people, signage, trees, benches, and other planting. You can also do this on the inside of the building, where we add colours and furniture to each of the rooms. This enables the client to see how their building will look at the end of construction in full rendered colour. This helps them to decide on furniture layouts in rooms such as this, a medical consultation room at a GP surgery. These models can also
The art of designing outdoor spaces. Like architecture, you would need a base in art or design, but it would also appeal to someone with an interest in the environment, life sciences, and plants. So we've spoken about lots of different types of designers that can be involved in a project, but managing them is the job of a design coordinator or design manager, and that's what I do.
Within a virtual.
So when I was at school, I had no idea what I wanted to do as a career. So I studied the subjects that I enjoyed and that I was good at, and that was product design, maths, and science. I was interested in building design, so I went on to study structural engineering and architecture at university. I really enjoyed it, but I didn't want to do either of those after I graduated. It was only when I started applying for jobs that I actually came across design coordination as a role.
Reality headset.
So to give you
So I tend to do about 1 to 2 days a week.
You learn many different things in maths at school, and many of the basics and more complex theory can be used in a number of construction-based jobs. You don't necessarily need A-level maths knowledge to succeed in any of these fields.
Week out on site.
The first port of call for a project is estimating. This is where we pull together and assess all the potential costs for a build, from materials and labour to new incoming services, project management and potential risk costs.
But generally,
once you successfully win a project, the next phase is to procure it. This is what a buyer does. Like many, I didn't leave school with a career in procurement or construction in mind, but I've now been in a procurement role for just over 10 years and have worked my way up from the bottom. As buyers, we're involved in all assets of building project. We start off measuring quantities from drawings and obtaining prices for different materials. I really enjoyed product design and graphics at school, especially technical drawing. This has really helped me be able to read construction drawings and details. We then compare different quotes we receive, not only on cost, but timescale, product certification and quality. Our job involves negotiating costs, having meetings with contractors and suppliers, and working with the site team to solve problems. We often get involved in developing design elements with consultants and subcontractors to find cost-effective or time-saving solutions to problems. We procure everything from ground and steelworks to partitions and sanitary ware to floral finishes and signage. If it goes into a building, when we are responsible for sourcing and procuring it. There's ample opportunity to progress within procurement. I started out as a temporary procurement administrator, eventually rising to a permanent assistant buyer. I then studied a foundation diploma in purchasing and supply through some evening classes to gain a better understanding of supplier management, contract law, and to build strong supply chain relationships. With Baxall, I've progressed from assistant buyer to a buyer through the job training and the wealth of experience I have gained. The construction industry offers a great opportunity for career progression, and many companies offer on-the-job training and education, bonuses and profit share schemes. The thing I like most about my job is the variety. One of my early projects was a library refurbishment, which had a lot of restoration and historical elements to consider. One day you were looking at restoring mosaic floors, and the next you're looking at different paint colours. One of my more recent projects was a training and office facility for an aviation company. Each project and client is so unique and varied, it ensures your job doesn't become stagnant or boring. As a buyer, you have the opportunity to get to know not only the client, but also the end user of your building. I've worked on several school projects and there's an opportunity to engage with the teachers and pupils and understand what they want from their new classrooms. Many times we take the opportunity to go into the school and explain the process of creating their new building and help them with projects of their own. It's not just the projects that vary. We have a good split between office-based and on-site meetings and walk-rounds. We also take the opportunity where possible to get out and about and build relationships with our subcontractors and better understanding the specialities of their trades. There is so much more to buying than just shopping.
A quantity surveyor manages the costs and the budget of a project from start to finish, making sure that any costs involved with the project are not exceeding the budget. They also make sure their clients get value for money. I left school not really knowing what I wanted to do. I went to college and completed my MVQ Level 2 hairdressing and also a diploma in theatrical makeup, which I thoroughly enjoyed. I got a job in a high street salon at the time to help me with my course. Once I was then qualified, I got a job in a salon in London thinking I was going to earn a lot more money, which was not the case. So I decided on a career change and got an office job working as an office admin for a disabled adaptations company within the construction industry. I managed to work my way up and loved the job and began my course in quantity surveying. I did 2 years H&C in built environment at Greenwich and then my degree at Westminster University, which lasted 3 years. This was part-time. Once qualified, I wanted to gain more experience, therefore I then joined Baxall's, a bigger company and also a main contractor. Quantity surveyor. The job entails monitoring and reporting costs from a project, visiting site and checking measured works. You will also deal with subcontractors, take part in site activities, carry out monthly valuations, produce cost plans for a project and attend monthly financial meetings. I am currently a graduate quantity surveyor for Baxall's. I'm due to finish my training in spring, in which I will then become an assistant quantity surveyor. Baxall's have given me the chance to train in each department, for example, site management, estimating, design management and quantity surveying. This has enabled me to enhance and expand my knowledge and understand the whole process of a construction project. To be a QS, the attributes that you would need is to be able to work in the team, be able to negotiate, pay attention to detail, have good communication skills and also a methodical approach to work. The role of a QS can be both site and office based. When I was at school, I wasn't taught about the construction industry and it was never a route I had even considered going down. It was always seen as a male orientated industry. I happened to fall into it by chance by getting an office admin job and now I'm doing a job that I love and am forever learning as there are many different methods of construction which are forever changing. You are able to interact and work with lots of different people. Women are becoming more known within the industry and job opportunities are more diverse.
Civil engineering covers a broad range of engineering. Essentially, they design the infrastructure that we use every day. It includes all sorts from railway projects, roads, bridges, water and wastewater systems, and dams. It's a very technical discipline. It involves a lot of mechanical mathematics and an understanding of forces. So studying physics alongside maths would be a good choice if you're looking at this option. The last one we have under maths is structural engineering, which actually formed part of my course at university. They essentially design the elements of a building that helps it stand up. In most buildings, this is beams, columns, and bracing, as well as the foundations, essentially ensuring that the building is safe, secure, and stable. The Shard is a pretty impressive example of this, but we have structural engineers on all of our projects, and as a design coordinator, I work with them a lot. They do spend time on sites, but most of their work happens when a project is still in design stage, looking at the stresses and strains of those individual building elements. Structural engineering is quite closely related to civil engineering, and because of this, a lot of courses at university will allow you to study both early on and then specialise later on in the course. One of the questions that we did get asked was, do you get female structural engineers? Having done structural engineering at university, a lot of the women on my course carried it on and are now fully accredited structural engineers. So yes, definitely.
There are a lot of management roles within construction. Almost all roles within our company involve management to some extent. Within our company, we have contracts, projects, and design managers. Generally, you need a lot of knowledge and experience in the industry to get into these positions. For these, you progress up from an assistant site manager to site manager, or from a design coordinator to design manager.
So site management is basically the daily management of the people, materials, plant, like the diggers and the machinery on site in order to complete the project on budget, time and to the required quality. Site managers are generally based on site and will have a setup not dissimilar to this. So as you can see, you've got a load of cabins, welfare units that they're craned in, put in place, and it's set up, and it's much like any other office. As you can see on the inside, you've got everything you would find in your normal office. Nice little kitchen in the corner as well, make yourself a hot drink. Being on site just gives you the freedom to manage your own time. You can get stuck right into the project. On an average day, you'll be both in the site office and out on site, looking at the work as it progresses. More often than not, there will be some kind of query, either from the client or the subcontractor, and you'll have to get the problem solving skills out. The drawings are probably the first port of call. These should hold most of the answers, but they don't always, but there is always somebody on hand to call to help find a solution. Site safety is a massive part of the role. You need to make sure that everyone is kept safe. But it does mean that you do get to wear a lovely outfit like this, a nice high-vis jacket and a hard hat, as well as your safety boots. So I've always been quite a hands-on person, very practical. At school, I really enjoyed art and design technology. I left school with GCSEs and then went on to complete an apprenticeship in painting and decorating. So I was working on site pretty much since I left school. It was a bit later in life that I decided I wanted to do a bit more. I hadn't realised there were quite so many roles within the construction industry. When I started looking into it, I decided to go back to university to get a construction management degree. And now I've started my time on Baxalls, which has a wide variety of roles. The good thing about construction is there are just so many different opportunities. I've been lucky enough to work on some really beautiful buildings and some truly interesting projects. I do really enjoy restoration projects where you take something that's a bit older, a bit more dilapidated, and turn it back into what it once was, restore it to its former glory. I now drive around, and if I see a building I've worked on, I point it out to all my friends and family. I can say, I built that, I did that. And that is immensely satisfying.
Some less obvious construction roles are:
Okay, starting with science. Material science engineering is the study of properties and processes of different materials, as well as the creation of new ones. So in construction, this often leads to the development of new materials and new products in the industry. They also look at the testing of existing and proposed construction build-ups, including fire testing, which looks like this. Geotechnical engineering is a branch of civil engineering that looks at the behaviour of below ground materials. We often have them in on projects with very difficult ground conditions. They also deal with more complex issues such as sinkholes, how to avoid forming them and how to safely close them up when they come about. So you've probably all heard of the Channel Tunnel crossing. It was geotechnical engineers who had to plan the route for the tunnel, and this was based on mapping and identifying the most suitable layer of bedrock for drilling. This middle layer was chosen because it comprised mostly of clay, preventing water from flowing and being soft enough to bore through. There's a huge amount of pressure on the construction industry to minimise our environmental impact. Sustainability specialists liaise with the other designers on the project, developing sustainable plans and strategies, advising on low and zero carbon technologies. This includes building materials, heating methods, whether it should have solar panels, and even whether it should have car charging points. So this is a living green wall that we installed on a school project in Sevenoaks. It might look simple, but the technology behind it has to ensure that all those plants receive sufficient water and nutrients. And now history-related disciplines. So UXO stands for Unexploded Ordnance. In World War I and World War II, a huge number of bombs were dropped on the UK. Not all of them exploded. Approximately 10% of World War II bombs did not explode. This means that there are a huge number of unexploded munitions buried in the ground. For the construction industry, where we do a lot of digging below ground, this obviously presents a huge risk to life. UXO researchers look at all the historical data, archive imagery, maps and written records to determine what has occurred historically on that particular construction site. From there, they will advise on the level of risk and whether or not further physical tests need to be carried out. You may think of archaeology as being reserved for the likes of Egypt, but the UK also has its fair share of buried historical and cultural artefacts and remains. If a site is either a high risk of being of archaeological interest, or if any artefacts are found during the groundworks phase, works on sites stop completely. From then, archaeologists are brought in to carry out field excavation. Anything that is found is then preserved and added to the historic environmental records. Conservation officers or historic building inspectors are involved in historic unlisted buildings, usually when the restoration project or conversion is being carried out. They ensure that the works are being carried out correctly, making sure that original features are restored in line with historical construction methods, and also making sure that the building's history is maintained. This is a window from Hastings Library, a project that we've renovated. This window was in a very bad state and needed replacing. The conservation officer had researched this building in extensive detail and therefore specified exactly how the new one would be made, ensuring that the stone we used was from the original quarry that the original stone had come from. For those of you with a love of wild animals, ecologists are also heavily involved in the industry. If any of you have ever seen fencing like this, it's because of these great crested newts, a rare and protected species in the UK. No work on construction sites can happen while there is a risk of these being harmed. So before work start, the ecologists have the fun task of rounding these little guys up and moving them temporarily out of harm's way to an area secured with new fencing, or sometimes relocating them altogether. Unless we are working in a built-up area, at the beginning of the project, an ecologist will research a site, looking at whether it could potentially provide a habitat for any of the protected species, and publish a report. From there, they may carry out further surveys. For example, sometimes the ecologist will conduct a bat survey at dawn and dusk to see if there are any bat movements on site. So we received a list of questions from you all. Hopefully we've covered most of them already, but the ones that we haven't, we're going to go through now.
You asked us how secure we think this sector is, given the current pandemic and its economic effects. The pandemic has taken a severe toll on many industries, but construction seems to be one of the least affected. The industry provides vital infrastructure to hospitals, schools, local government and businesses. No one at Baxall Construction was made redundant or even furloughed during the pandemic, and although most of us now work from home, our job security has been unaffected.
So one of you asked, is there a lot of A-level maths involved? Now, hopefully through this presentation, we've been able to show you that there's lots of roles which don't require any maths. But even for the ones that do require maths, you would probably need a GCSE, but not necessarily need an A-level. The only one where you wouldn't need an A-level is probably engineering.
You asked us, is it a very competitive environment to work in? And will your pay depend on other people in the company? No, I don't feel it's particularly competitive at all. In a lot of industries, you have to be promoted to a team leader role to get salary increases. So you can sometimes be waiting for someone to leave the company or progress for a position to become vacant. Not as much the case in construction. Successful projects require immense teamwork. Generally, this is what gets you recognised for career progression and salary increases. The success of a project isn't dependent on one person. It is very much a team effort from start to finish, and lessons and successes are reviewed regularly with most companies. There are many construction roles out there, and we have shown you just a few. There's more information on our Baxall Academy section of our website, where you can read about the experiences and different routes people have taken into construction, as well as apply for work experience. Most importantly, it's okay to not know what role you want to do right away when leaving school. Many of us have had career changes as we found the jobs we love. The most important thing is to focus on what you enjoy at school and go from there.
So I think we've covered most of the more obvious roles, but there are still so many more that we haven't covered today. If you want to explore these further, we really recommend the website www.goconstruct.org. On there, they have a fantastic Career Explorer tool, which is a survey that you fill out about your interests, your skills, and your preferences. For example, whether or not you want to work from home or whether you want to work outdoors. From there, it will give you a list of potential roles, routes into that role, and even the salaries that you can expect.
That's the end of our presentation. Thank you for listening. We hope you consider a career in construction.
Between